Thank you guys for turning up on a Saturday afternoon and seeing very old movie. It was interesting.
But yeah, you actually were sitting in on it this time, watching it, weren't you?
Yeah, I haven't sat through it. We did a Q&A here about a month ago, but I haven't actually sat and watched the whole thing. Yeah, there's a lot to be proud of. There's a lot to cringe at. It's a different era. I went a few months ago to the latest Ninja Turtle movie, which I thought was great. And I went with my two grandkids who are here, and we watched it, and they really liked it, but didn't have any connection to it at all. So and there's he. Where are you? They've never finally seen this film. We never got to see this movie. And I'll get the truth from them. Which one was better?
Well, you've had a very interesting career, because obviously it didn't just start with the Turtles. I don't know if any of you all here know, but you directed basically some of the kind of first music videos, like not first, but like the ones that really changed the whole industry and kind of created an industry for MTV and all that. So we're talking like Aha's Take on Me. Wow. You want to you just kind of tell us how you got into your filmmaking career and eventually into the music videos and stuff before you actually started directing films?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of luck and timing and circumstance, really. I was around I got into movies through my parents were my mother was a continuity girl and a director. My father was a sound man. So I was sort of knew the world of film a little bit from running around on the set. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do, what I was going to do, and left school quite early. And just got into it, really. Meeting my sister who's here, Siobhan, we met people she knew from the music world, she knew very well a lot of people, and then out of that came a period of time where I worked as a clapper boy, the person who puts the clapper board on, makes the tea, puts the clapper there, and I worked as that on Superman and Bridge Too Far for a number of years, and big movies. But I didn't really connect with what the director did or what the producers did or anything. And then met people in the music world who were like impressed with. I was in Superman, didn't know the difference between a clapper loader and a director, so I kind of got asked to bring the camera along and do some what were then promos that became music videos, and learned really through trial and tribulation, really, and got to do some great acts and got lucky.
Yeah, I mean, those are some of the most amazing videos still to this day. Like, they're incredible. And now it's like rare to even see music videos, like they just don't film as much anymore. But yeah, so getting into your directing career, obviously you did Electric Dreams. Did anyone come out to see that like last year? Anyone? No?
Wise. Because I did. We did a Q&A for that as well at the same time. And that was 1983, Electric Dreams. I was 26 or something. I'd just done Billie Jean and kind of launched me into movies. And I didn't really know what I was doing. Not to say I knew what I was doing by this time. But it is a lot. It feels so different to my first movie in terms of I learned through working with Jim Henson, who then came and did Turtles here. I really learned how to move the camera, where the camera should be. Because when I was shocked when I came here to see Electric Dreams I hadn't seen for 30 years. And the camera's going around all over the place because I was in music videos. It was like moving and tracking and craning and for no reason. And it really was a wake-up call, but I remembered that I'd learned a bit all the way through that period.
Yeah, and then you would move on to doing The Storyteller, right? Like with Jim Henson.
Yeah, Storyteller was a TV series before Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And we had a great time doing that. I learned a bit about prosthetics and latex and all these great tricks that the Henson Creature Shop kind of get up to, and their brilliant artistry at modelling and sculpting and puppeteering. I mean, that all came through that Storyteller series, and so obviously when this came along, this strange concept, and it was really strange at the time, with just somebody, actually a wonderful writer, Anthony Minghella, sent me the comic book and said, you should do it. He'd seen Storyteller, and he was a good friend, and he'd written some Storyteller, and he said, you've got to come and do this, you've got to make this thing out of these comics because nobody else wants to do it and nobody else knows how to do it. So that became that, and then it was a question of talking Jim Henson into doing it, because Fraggle Rock and the Muppets and the real family things, and suddenly this very dark comic book it was really, even before the cartoons, which were lightened it up a bit, we had this really dark, violent, bloody comic book that we were going to adapt to a kid's film, and I wanted to keep some of the darkness, obviously, as you saw, which kind of made it feel more real, obviously, that how they live, how they survived all those years in the sewers and everything. So that's where that all came from, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of funny because, like, as a kid of the '90s, like growing up, watching a lot of films like that, like things were just weirdly darker back then, and it was a lot more was acceptable. But even by the time I got to the sequel a couple of years later, they were just like, no, that was a little too dark. We're not gonna let Michelangelo have nunchucks this time. He's gonna have some salami or something.
Yeah, I didn't do the sequel.
Yeah.
Just do salami.
Hey, yeah, Ninja Rap, anyone? Woo! We gotta give it a little. It was fun. But yeah, so whereabouts did you come into this project in terms of, like, was there already something in motion? Because I know it was a big struggle back then, which is funny now today in a time where comic book movies are like just everywhere. But back then, you had things like Howard the Duck was like a big bomb, and it made comic book movies really hard to get made.
Yeah, Howard the Duck was a real problem. Everybody was like, all the studios were like, no, we don't know what you're talking about. No way. Turtles, Ninja Turtles, forget it. All the studios turned it down. Every one of them. And we pitched it. I got involved very early on. It was a comic. It was just a comic book, and then they'd done a very rough treatment script, but it was nowhere near ready to shoot or anything. And we got Todd Langen in, who was a really good writer from the Wonder Years, and really because he had the humorous sensibility. We wanted that humor. We wanted those one-liners to land, and that was really important to kind of offset the fighting in a way, and make it hopefully an enjoyable watch.
Yeah. So after you got involved, eventually you find your way into getting some funding via Hong Kong from Golden Harvest. Finally, someone who would come in to fund this movie, but you had Jim Henson involved, so you have these amazing, creatures in the film and animatronics and everything. What was it like to have Jim come in and just kind of like make the Turtles look the way they looked back then?
Without Jim, it would have been nothing. I think it's his team that worked up in Camden Town, and they just had great ideas, and they were so keen to make it the front of technology at the time. Really, I mean, it looks really pretty hokey, grandchildren and things. At the time, that technology, that robotic face, with 17 moving parts and eyes and blinks and mouth movement and lip curl, was impossible to do live, and really get what we needed for the characters. And they were wearing the machinery in the backpacks, and it was incredible technology. In fact, we had some times we were shooting in South Carolina. We had some times when we were near our RAF, an American Air Force base, And occasionally when the wrong plane took off with the reception was going on, we'd be shooting a scene with the turtles and suddenly the mouse would go there. Okay, we'll go again, wait for the plane to go past.
Yeah, you probably can tell I'm from America myself. I'm actually from the South. I don't really have a very Southern accent, but from where I'm from, I know about the humidity, and I know you guys were dealing with that when you were making the film. I've read that certain actors in the turtle suits were losing like loads of weight from just sweating profusely. So, like, was the heat also an issue with those machines and everything?
Yeah, South Carolina, it's much summer. It was really hot, and they were in these suits that then they had to be locked into when they put the suits on, and when you put the head on, and it had to be all fixed, and that fixing meant that they couldn't really take it off quickly and get a breather. And Raphael, Josh Pice, who played Raphael, it was great. It was then he was a real strong from the acting world, whereas the others were more performers who'd worked with costumes before. Josh had never worked in a costume, and he got very claustrophobic and freaked out a few times. And we invented a sort of horse that him and the other turtles could sit on between takes, with the blowing the air up through it. And it was like, I looked around a few times, and it was like a kind of mad art show with all these turtles positioned down on these horses. But it was a way to do it.
Do you have any other fun stories or anything from when it was getting made? I mean, you have like kind of an incredible cast of, there's like Sam Rockwell's in the film, Elias Koteas, and as you said, Josh Pice, who's gone on to do a lot of stuff as well. Judith Hogue, like any like fun stories or anything from making the film?
That's a tricky one. Yeah, it was full of little trials. We dug those, the way to get into drains and in and out of drains sounds really simple, but the size of the turtles, there was nothing that existed. We had to really dig up all of that, and them coming in and out of the holes, and they were actually plopping down into a puddle of about 3 foot of water as they got in, and which could be dangerous with the electrics and everything. So that wasn't a lot of fun. That's not a fun story.
Really interesting.
I should have thought about this before, but yeah, it was. Amazing. Sam Rockwell came in. He was a young actor in New York. He came into the casting and he just did a great little audition. And I just thought he's great. And obviously, I think he's brilliant now. Watching his more recent things. Elias Koteas. Yeah. Well, I just think the casting felt right. Looking at it again, felt like a good group of actors who really kind of brought the reality to it. That was the thing. It was like kind of just try and center it, ground it, and make it feel real. And that meant being careful with the cast.
Yeah. Before we move on to you guys, you guys have questions? Anyone? Cool. We have people ready. But yeah, I guess before we move on, was there any sort of like initial sort of like panic that maybe this might like work, any like the studio or anyone like freaking out, producers or anything, that like this might not hit? Because I don't know if you all know this, but this was the biggest independent film of all time until the Blair Witch Project came out. So it was a big hit. Turtle fever is actually happening worldwide, and there's like cartoons and toys and everything. Like, oh, this is going to be okay.
Yeah, there was real panic from the Golden Arms, primarily the producers out in Hong Kong. They thought I'd gone way too dark with it, and it was too late. I was just shooting it. They were trying to fire the DP and everything, but we did it, and then as we got into post, we started to see a couple of trailers, and trailers were going into certain cinemas across America, and kids were like going crazy, and people standing up and clapping, and we just knew it was a hit, but we thought it was, the film cost $7 million, which was a tiny budget really for what we had to do, and we thought that that it might now gross some reasonable amount of money, maybe $10-15 million or something. We were getting excited about the actual return on it. And I remember my agent ringing up on the Friday, and my daughter, Gemma, whose birthday it is today, and her brother Oliver, we were in Hollywood somewhere, and in a rented suite somewhere, and the agent rang up and he said, it's going to make, the projection right now is that this is going to make $7 million in the opening weekend. And we were jumping up and down on bed, and Gemma was saying, what are you doing? What is it? What's going on? I said, you don't understand, this is amazing, this is a big hit. $7 million it made in the first day. It made $135 million. We had no idea that it could be that big. So it was really, it's exciting too, especially after the first movie I did, Electric Dreams, which didn't do anything. This was very exciting.
I before I move on, sorry, I do have to say though, Coneheads is awesome. All right, we're going to move on to the questions now from the audience. I see someone over here. Just hold your hand up if you have questions, and one of our ushers will hand you a microphone.
Hello, testing. Hi there, Steve. So here with my friend James, who invited me for your last film showing at was known as this theatre. I've got some photographs of you. I was just wondering if you could either tell me by looking at them, either what happened either before, during, or after these. If I just have someone bring these up to you.
It sounds scary.
They're not. I promise they're not.
Okay, these are the cards that came out with the movie, yeah?
That's correct, yeah.
With the making the movie. What happened before?
Either before, during, or after. You can't remember exactly what was going on at the time.
Oh yeah, one thing is called behind the scenes last minute costume check. I actually can't see what's happening in it, but they're fiddling with a turtle, I think. And actually, yeah. There's one called The Gang's All Here is lovely with Jim Henson. Can you see this?
Just describe to the audience.
Yeah. And then that's me with my long hair and spotty face looking at a Michelangelo, giving him a pep talk. I mean, you have to keep them all happy. They were great, these guys. But they really worked and they lost a lot of weight. You're right. I don't know what else I can say. The poster with them all looking over the edge, and then these are really cool. Have you got the whole set?
Yeah, I have the whole set. I just bought those just for this.
Okay. All right.
We had a question up here in the front as well. Just 1 second. Yeah. Just here. Sorry, we'll come back.
I just wanted to know, what's your favourite actor? What's your favourite actor?
My favourite actor ever.
Artist. Sorry, I mean artist.
Yeah.
What's your favourite artist?
Favorite artist.
Favourite artist. Well, favourite actor, Marlon Brando. I thought it was amazing. Never got to work with him, obviously. Artist, you mean in the music world?
No, I mean in like physical art, because your turtles are named after artists.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean artist. My favourite artist is probably. I just did a series based in Marlow that is right near Cookham, where Stanley Spencer grew up. Do you know Stanley Spencer? He's an artist. He's one of the biggest British artists who's not with us anymore. But I loved his researching his paintings, his series of paintings were around, generally around Cookham and the River Thames and everything. It was amazing. He's got great characters in it, and it really draws you in, and I've got connections with it, so I suppose that's why.
Another one back there. That's the one you're about to go to.
Hey Steve, I imagine you're aware of how important this film is to a generation of people who grew up with the Turtles, and like how it's still, this film is kind of beloved of most people's understanding or iteration of the Ninja Turtles. I wondered if, there've been so many different versions over the years. I wondered if there any other, if you had the opportunity now with the money that would be thrown at a film like this now, how would you do it differently? And also, are you aware of how much people love this film, despite you saying it's cringy in places, like it's so beloved?
Well, thank you for that. That's very sweet of you. Yeah, I guess from the audience here today and when it's plays, it seems to have struck a note with, especially as most of you, I suppose, were about 8 at that time, 8 or 9. It seems to be the hot spot. If you were that age, you kind of carried it with you for life. Yeah, that's really, really sweet. I mean, it's on, I suppose, events like this, I start to realise it's important, and maybe I take it a bit for granted, but it is, it was a moment. The later films, to be honest, I wasn't very keen on the later films, especially the CGI ones. I just felt they lost, they lost character. They were colder somehow. They didn't have that warmth and that endearing quality. The last one though, the Seth Rogen one, I think you've probably all seen. I really enjoyed it with the grandkids, and so I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Actually, I dropped him a note and said that. So for me, that was the first one that came up to that level. If I was to do it now again, I think I'd definitely use. I mean, obviously, motion capture is the thing now, isn't it? If you can get kind of human character into CGI, but if the right team were around, like they were all around then, the right puppeteers, there's something extraordinary about on the set and really feeling it and believing it and knowing that you're doing it. But I can't wait to find out what the kids think and see whether they're like kind of feel they're a bit weird and a bit out of date.
I think it still holds up, I believe. Like, last time I watched it, like, the last time you were here, I was sitting up front watching it, and it's just, like, it's still amazing. Like, I don't know, it's a lost art, the practical effects, like, is really a lost art, because, I mean, it did look incredible. Like, do we have anyone back here? I don't want to leave you guys out. Jade?
Who inspired you to post as a director?
Sorry, what was that?
Who inspired you as a director?
To become a director?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm not absolutely sure. I mean, I've seen. Have you ever seen a film called Citizen Kane? Very old. Very old. When I saw that, but that was later. It made me want to do it. You know what's weird? I didn't actually have an ambition to be a director. My ambition was to be a footballer. And to be the director, even when I was a clapper loader, I didn't know quite what the director did, and so I regret not listening on Ridley Scott's first film, The Jewess, where I was clapper loading Superman on A Bridge Too Far, Richard Attenborough, those films, because I was just doing the job, and I didn't know that along would come an opportunity through music videos to be a director, and so I suppose I found out as time went on. Who else inspired me? I'll have a think. I'll get back to you.
All right, I have one back there.
I have 2 questions. My first one is, do you know what a crumpet is?
Have you never eaten a crumpet?
Yes, I have.
Okay. You put on a lot of butter goes into a crumpet to make it delicious.
And my second question is when Shredder and that, why did you cut out the Shredder in the Michelangelo scene from where he's in the barnyard and he's doing the Michelangelo drawing? And also, why did you cut out the Shredder scene where he's sitting down on his knees defeating all those kids?
Where did you see that?
YouTube.
YouTube. I didn't cut them out. I mean, what happened, there was censorship that went on where, in particular, in fact, when it came out in England, it was called Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, which was sorry, that's really rubbish. They changed it because they thought Ninja was a bit more dangerous. So, yeah, I didn't cut them out, I promise. They exist somewhere. Somebody cut them out, after we delivered the film.
Will there ever be a Baron cut?
I see that a lot online. I mean, the simple answer really is that there isn't the material. I mean, we shot for 7 weeks. That was all shot in 7 weeks. And we had no more money. And they said, go away, get off the set. You've got no more money. And there were at least 14 pages of script that we didn't get to shoot that helped set up the story and a number of other things that came out. I can't even remember them. So how we do a Baron cut, we'd have to cut 2 pages of a script or something, and try, or go out, spend $1 million and go out and shoot the missing bits. There's hardly anything I wouldn't have cut in the edit. And the editor, I don't know if you know, but Sally Menke, who's the editor on this film, was brilliant. She's not around anymore, but she's absolutely brilliant. This was her first film, and the second film was Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs. And then she worked with Tarantino through every one of his films until recently, until she died. And in fact, she told me that he said, there's a whole thing where he was talking to a group of people, and he said that Uma Thurman came to me and she said, "Who's Sally Menke? Who's your editor? Who's Sally Menke?" And he said, "You don't know Sally Menke?" He said, "She made Donatello fight." And Uma Thurman didn't know what he was talking about. He loved the film. He really loved the film, and he took one of the jewels from it, the editor.
Were you ever asked about doing the sequel after the success of the first one?
I actually had it in my contract. I could have the choice of doing the sequel, but it felt like A, I'd done it. B, it was going to be, we needed brighter, we needed more colourful. It was very much that. They were going, the second film is more brighter and more colourful and less darkness and everything. So I thought that was the definitive moment, really, where we get this property seen the right way, and so I didn't do it.
All right, Jake, you want to get someone?
Wow. Yeah. I absolutely love the film. It is really good. Me and saw it last year. Cause I feel like no one else has adapted the Turtles the way you did in live action. Because the second film is just like you wanted light up because the parents complained about the darkness of the film. Like, and then the third film they tried to do Turtles in time. Like, why? Like, I grew up with the 2003 series. I really enjoyed it. Because they took a lot of inspiration from your film. And like, when I rewatched the 2003 series the other day, I was like, yeah, I can see it. So like, how come you managed to adapt the Turtles so good from the comics, and yet everyone else who tried to do it in live action has failed?
How did you manage to adapt them so well compared to everyone else?
Yeah, thank you for that. I don't know. I mean, I think it's instinct, isn't it? It's gut feeling on everything. When you make a film, every shot you do, how you do it, and how the people perform in that shot is all gut instinct. And I think it's because I've still got that kind of thing, that a little bit of that Walt Disney thing, that the child inside. I love, going to Ghostbusters, and you know, like kind of that is. That was still very much my sort of film to go. So I wasn't making it for anybody else except me. And it was all, I want to see that, and I want to have that bit, you know, like this. So it's a hard one to say, but thank you for the compliments.
All right, we have time for one more. Let's see this gentleman straight dead in the center. You guys can get a mic to him. He's had his hand up. Yeah, you just did the thumbs up.
Testing.
All right, sorry, we had a hijack question.
Yeah.
What was your favorite of the Ninja Turtle movies or cartoons?
The favorite turtle or the favorite movie? The favorite turtle, Raphael. I love Raphael.
All right. Yeah.
Hi, Steve. So, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you because your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie inspired me to get into martial arts, and I now have a career as a successful martial arts instructor, so thank you for that. Along those lines, the violence of the film was one of the biggest things that was criticised after release, therefore in the sequel it was toned down. In your personal opinion, do you feel like the violence needed to be that toned down in that second film? In my opinion, I didn't think it was. Put it this way, I wasn't inspired to go smacking people with nunchucks and stabbing people with sharp objects after the film. So in your personal opinion, do you feel like it was as violent as what people made it out to be?
No, I don't. I mean, I felt it was at the right level of humour, and obviously there's some moments where you feel the tension and the danger with it, because that's what it does. I thought the fighters and the choreographer, particularly the guy who couldn't speak any English from Hong Kong, whose name I can't remember, was brilliant. He brought 4 guys in from Hong Kong as well, and they did the stunt type fighting either away from it or fast moving work. And I think it's an overall tone. It is a bit sharp or whatever, but I don't know. That was right for me. I thought that was the right level, and so that's what we went for.
I mean, just given like at the time period, I mean, what other things little kids were watching and stuff and cartoons, how much different is like seeing like Tom and Jerry or Bugs Bunny, you know, doing very evil things to each other, you know, like how much different, it's not even that much more violent.
Yeah, I think it does go there. I mean, it is slightly dark. So is the storyteller, the one we did before, is even darker than that, I feel. But I think kids aren't stupid, and you can process things. And obviously, I'm hoping no one's going away with any nightmares or anything.
All right, we only have time for one more. You right there, you in the second row. Oh, okay. Just shout real quick questions.
Hi Steve, thanks for this movie. Pleasure to meet you. My final question to you is, how happy and involved were the creators, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, in making this movie? Obviously this year is like the 40th anniversary of the TMNT, and I've met Kevin Eastman 6-7 years ago, and he said, in his opinion, this is what cemented the TMNT legacy. I mean, you had the cartoon and you had the comics that they made, but it was really after this movie that the Turtles just were launched into the stratosphere for quite some time. How involved were Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird with you when they made this movie? Was it everything that they wanted it to be in the end?
Yeah, I mean, you should ask them, but I still hear from Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird less, but Kevin is, every few months I get an email from Kevin, and he's talking about something that's happened. He went and did the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He's trying to put his hands in the cement, and he's now part of that Groundlings Theatre legacy. They were really positive throughout it. Actually, once they said that once I got on board, because before that they were unsure what it was going to be, how these turtles are going to be made. You know, everyone had talked about different processes of how it would be made. And once I got on board, I went to meet them up in Northampton, Massachusetts, and they were great. And they just said, we trust you, and they totally didn't actually interfere with anything, except in a positive way.
All right, we'll take that last one there. I don't know if there's a mic around, but just if you want to shout it out really loud.
So taking the Ninja Turtles from the comics and all the way from the cartoons and all the way to the manifesting it on the big screen, what was the most important skill for you as a director?
The script. I mean, the number one thing that was going to make it work was the script, and we had there's some scenes in that film that are exactly the first comic book. If you ever get the first edition of the first comic book, it has the story with the fire in April's antique store and all the scenes around that, and they go off into the countryside and rehabilitate. And so that we had that script, we had that basics, and I tore those out and pinned them up and said, these have to be the principal scenes in this movie. And most of them were from that comic book, but there was missing central plot, one strong central plot. And we had a development lady in LA, and she said she'd read an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer that was about some kids that had been manipulated by a Fagin-type character into stealing for him, and stealing TV, but stealing things that they want to play with. And so, and it had gone on for years, and then they finally caught him, and he went to jail. But it was a tiny little article, but it was like, that is the Shredder, that's what Shredder's doing in New York with these kids. And it just completed the circle of the story, the script, and that's by far the most important thing.
Thank you.
All right, well, that was all we had time for. Sorry if we didn't get to you. So I just want to say thank you for making the Ninja Turtles. And thank you all for coming out. And we hope you have a great rest of your day.